Victoria, by the way, 28 new infections today, up from yesterday, and 3 deaths. And again, the same pattern. A woman in her 70s, one in her 90s, one in her 100s, all in aged care. Now, one of the big challenges in understanding this virus and how best to respond is trying to work out what on earth is going on in Europe now with its second wave. Now, as I've noted a few times, and again last night, something very strange is going on there. You take France, a huge second wave of infections, bigger even than the first one. Look at that. But no increase in deaths, which is strange. And the same pattern you are seeing now in many other European countries. Holland, Belgium, Britain. Here, Britain. This is Britain. Big second wave of infections. But look, not a second wave of deaths, or not yet. Although I have to say, you'd probably have expected that second wave of deaths to show up by now. I think we've got to figure out this mystery, because we can't assume that Australia won't be hit again and again with waves of this virus. And that will make us face a big question. Do we really go into yet another lockdown each time, like Victoria's, with all the damage being done? That's why understanding Europe is so important, because we won't need to panic like this if we know it won't kill like it used to. Now, there has been some research which might give us a clue about this. Some of it's been done in Sweden, which I should remind you was widely attacked for not going into a lockdown in the first wave. By the way, let's look now at Sweden. Unlike most of Europe, no second wave of infections. There are still between 100 or 200 new infections most days, but it's almost, and I stress almost, like there's some herd immunity going on. So what is in fact the answer to all this? Joining me is one of the experts behind that Swedish study into how the body reacts to the virus. It's infectious diseases expert Dr. Sue Aleman, an associate professor at Karolinska University Hospital. Dr. Aleman, thank you so much for your time. Your research looked at the body's defences to this virus, particularly T cells. Now, your research found that some people who hadn't actually got this virus themselves seemed to already have had some immunity or resistance to it. How could that have happened?
Well, there are different theories. So when we look at the blood donors before 2019, at that time when the SARS-CoV-2 virus was not around, we saw that around 30% in the Stockholm area, or 20 to 30%, had already T-cell immunity against the virus. And the hypothesis that the other groups have found is that other common cold viruses, that they can cause some cross-reactivity. So in the population, you have some natural pre-existing immunity against this new virus that has emerged.
That's extraordinary. So some common cold varieties might have given you some immunity to it. Does that, you mentioned the figure of up to 30% already. Does that mean we may be closer than we thought to this fabled herd immunity, having so many people with immunity through past infections that the virus can't spread or can't make people as sick?
Yeah, but I think we experts, we don't really know what is the level, the thresholds needed to have herd immunity. A previous estimation was that generally you need to have 50% having had infection and immunity against this new virus. The new calculation also taking into account that we have pre-existing immunity, you can go down to 10 to 30%. But right now, we don't know which level of herd immunity we need to know to not the virus being circulated around the society and not harming the elderly, because the elderly population are the one we want to protect mostly.
Now, if something like the common cold or some varieties of it give you a partial immunity, does that help us to understand, for instance, why this coronavirus is killing the very old, but doesn't seem to be killing many young people at all, at least if they've got no other comorbidities?
I think it's more about the pre-existing immunity. Of course, the elderly has had a lot of common cold, but their immune system usually wane with time when you get older. So I think that's one of the reasons. They have more of the pre-existing disorder as diabetes, hypertension, and so they were much weaker also from the beginning, and their lung capacity might not be as good as a young person's. So I think there are several factors involved in this. And we don't know now why we are having some new infections rising, but the death rate is going down. Is it because it's affecting mostly younger ones, or is it that the virus has changed? It does not support that much. So I think that we do not understand it totally yet.
It is weird, isn't it, how this second wave doesn't seem to be killing people. This is, I guess, a sign of hope for the future, how we deal with this. Can you explain, by the way, why there's been no second wave of infections in Sweden? That's almost alone in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, we don't understand it totally, but of course we don't have so dense population in this area. We are used to have more single families. So I think it's the social structure also. And I think also the Swedes tend to follow the regulation of the authority pretty well. We are in basic socialistic country. We trust the authorities take care of the taxes. We have free healthcare. So I think people are usually following the social distancing very good, and we don't hang around the pub that much. And we try to keep, of course, there are young ones also in Sweden not following it, but I think enough people are following it, so new infections do not increase in Sweden right now.
Well, Dr. Sue Aleman, this is fascinating stuff. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Gives us some hope. Maybe a lot of Australians already have some sort of immunity to this virus. Does that explain our low infection rate? That's something worth... I wish there was more research here into this kind of stuff.